So this X-Maxx is called Cerberus, Gatekeeper of Hell, three-headed dog. Anyways, it's going to get bearing swap and a chassis, I think. I like using Jim's bearings. They got the only bearings I've found out of numerous ones that I've purchased. These are the only ones that actually come with grease in them. I won't mention the names of the other ones, but these are the way to go. So this truck is Castle Monster 8S. Got the 1717 in it. It's a really nice setup. I got the ESC sitting on an RPM ESC mount, QS8 connectors, because these things are amp hogs. I originally had this set up with the Traxxas plugs a few years ago, or maybe 2 years ago when it first came out, and I got a over amp warning on it, and yeah, Castle won't warranty if you get the over amp warning. It went up to 384 amps on that pass, and was pulling over almost 13 horsepower. Not over, almost. Got a couple of fans in it. There's a Protec 30mm in there, and this is a 40mm fan. They haven't really had to use the fans. It runs really good, running 2550 Mod 1 gears in it, and yeah, it's a nice light setup. I've had it up to 66 miles an hour. We're going to try to get 70 miles an hour out of this set of 2550 gears, but this is just going to be a quick rundown, basically. Hopefully it's quick anyways, or entertaining enough to stay tuned, on bearing change on an X-Maxx. There isn't too many decent videos out there on this, so I figured I'd make a video for you guys. These are the Proline springs I run on this. I got the plastic spring separators made out of aluminum at a local machine shop for a few bucks. I just didn't want the plastic ones breaking in our cold winter weather here. Get rid of that stuff. So let me get some tools and we'll commence to tearing it down. Alright. So the first thing I like to do is strip it down to a manageable size. Everybody's used to working on pan cars. These modular trucks are a little something to get used to, but once you get them down, they are incredible. This, I find, is the easiest way to work on it, is get rid of the bumpers, front and back. Holy crap, look at the rocks in there. I like these little RPM parts holders. Work nice, and the steel bench is nice because you can slide it around. This truck has broken its fair share of front bulkheads. Shock towers. These DeWalt gyroscopic drills are a must for an X-Maxx, I believe. Screw stuck in there. Alright. Rocks all over the place. That's gonna happen. Let's clean my bench up. Well, I got this little piece of foam. I set on this off Amazon. It's a baker's turntable, I guess. Works nice for these things over. So from here, the easiest way I find to work on them is to pull the corners off. Instead of having all these arms flopping around, it's much easier. And you got to check all this stuff anyways, so if you don't have a drill though, this can be a little time consuming. The easiest thing I found for getting the pins out is a 90-degree pick tool. Not so much for these upper ones, but for the lower back in here, it's a little ignorant to get in there. There. Oh, I'm going to switch her a bit. Take our steering off. Okay. Camera glitched out again for some reason. I don't know if this is going to work at all. Got to get equipment that works. Interesting. I don't know why that camera keeps doing that. Probably noticed I'm running a mixture of HD arms and stock arms. I don't know if I like the HD arms too much. I've broken a few in the wintertime up here. The standard stock ones seem to fare much better in cold and more flexible. The HD ones seem almost like a consistency of aluminum arms, which I'm not a big fan of aluminum for bashing. Okay, oh, camera's still working. Okay. So, just like that, a few screws. Now, these here, the maintenance bearing change on those I think is pretty self-explanatory. I don't know if I'll get into swapping those out, but we will get to tearing this down after clean the gravel off my bench. And then this guy here is all going to get a new home in here. I always have a spare chassis kicking around, or enough parts to build one anyways, just because I like to not have any downtime. And to pick up all the plastics for an X-Maxx is only a couple of $100, which is incredible, so why not have it? And then I dye them black, I don't know, just because. So we'll commence to doing the teardown here after I clear up this crap off my bench. And yeah, DeWalt gyroscopic makes it easy. Well, for some reason my camera keeps wanting to go to Wi-Fi. Not much of a camera dude. I do know my X-Maxx is open. So there we go. Corner off. Now you can just do maintenance on the corners when you need to, very easily. Just like that. Okay. So parts are organized in their bins. 4 corners are off. Now we got a very, very manageable piece of X-Maxx to work with. Now, the biggest area that's prone for breakage, if you're going to be doing aerial tricks with it, backflips and such, and big jumps, is this upper front bulkhead brakes. They sell it separately, and it'll also break the shock tower right here. Shock towers are sold as a unit left and right. The rear is not so prone, but it'll break back here too. But the upper bulkhead is not sold separately. You have to buy the whole unit, front and rear. Sounds like my cat's getting busy. So say that happened, you could leave your front assembly on here if you wanted to, but you have to pull these pins right here to get the upper shock tower off. I gotta also take off this extra battery tray. I use this for my fans and any accessories on my trucks. I don't like having extra power taken from my RX. You could do the BEC thing, I guess, too. So I'm just taking the 2 bolts out of the center brace. Center brace has more bolts than anything else on this truck. It's incredible. So then we go down, right in, take the 2 shock tower bolts out. I guess we'll take it off this rotator for now. Easier to seal like this. The bell crank assembly's got to come out too. If you don't have a manual for your X-Maxx, you'll definitely want to keep track of where the bolts go. But it's very easy to download. I'm going to get mine laminated actually, just so I can have them on the bench. seen a couple of guys do that. Gerald Winter in the Netherlands, he's got nice laminated cross sections of his. It's very nice to get at those lengths. And if you're unsure, I got a paper clip I always keep here, and you can just put it in, see what the whole length is for the bolt that you require. Excuse me. She's bolt heavy. Okay. Oh, a few more down in there. Forgot to mean. Lots of bolts. Different sizes. And that is, this is completely loose now. And then you're out. The rest of your bolts. And there's your front end off. And it looks like horns are good. I haven't been doing much jumping with this truck lately. I've just been mainly doing speed runs. It looks pretty good. So that's it. And it's not broke anywhere. Well, that's good. No damage yet other than just maintenance. And I believe this truck, once we get it tore down, still has the plastic geared 2085 servo in it. This will be the longest surviving servo. The other servos I have, I either swapped out to the 2085X or I put the metal gear conversion in. See my homemade extended gear cover. Let's cut the top off the stock gear case and shave down a lid off a can of some sort of spray that had a clear lid apparently. These ones are back here. They're considerably longer than the front ones. There goes the furnace. I'm trying to do it without the furnace interfering, but and there we go. These ears are good as well. Looks good. Not broke here. What I have had happen is that screw right in there, I've had that pull through, the head of it pull through, and the chassis, the shock tower is split open, and had to completely take it apart like this to get it out. So now I've been putting a washer on the head of that so it can't pull through anymore. That's with my heavier truck. My light trucks don't do that, but the heavy truck it likes to break stuff. So this guy here, that's what's been making it go 66 miles an hour. 2050 gearing. And that right there, my friends, is a plastic spur gear. And she's taking a beating. And she was doing her fair share of backflips and all that. Hanging on there with a WFO mini mount. Solid setup, I'll tell you that. Okay, we're going to get this cleaned up and then I'll be back. Alright, cleaned up a little bit again. It's pretty dirty, this one. Now we're just going to disconnect the steering from the servo. Once that bad boy's out, then the whole bell crank assembly can come out. And this is where you find a whole pile of bearings. A couple in there, there's one on each side here, and bearings on the back. But you want to make sure this is just nice and loose the way it is. But lots of grit and grime in there. Gotta clean that up. And then this truck is a little different than your stock one when you're doing it, because it's got the relocated ESC and some aftermarket fans and such. I've got to cut the zip tie out of here. And on that side, those out of here. Didn't quite get through. Oh yeah, got through it. Just a little tight. My buddy Aaron Harris RC Racing prints me these off. All my prints. Does some nice work, I'll tell you that. If you need some stuff for your RC, look them up. So down in here, you'll notice when you're running this long can motor, I had to shave the chassis. If you run a taller gear, I suppose you wouldn't have to, but we haven't gotten to that point with this motor yet. Or you could just run a 54 tooth, and then we'll have to see. I'll let you know if I can put that in there without having to shave it. Good question. Okay, so now the chassis brace can come out. Don't bother taking these ones out of here. You're better off just flipping it over. Pulling these guys out of here. Like I said, she's got a lot of screws holding this modular design together. And that guy just pops out of there. One thing I would highly recommend is these motor mount washers you can get from Traxxas. These here just help prevent you from stretching or damaging the plastic. It evenly distributes the force you're putting on them to hold your motor mount in place. Really good idea. All right. All right, so after a little bit of brushing some sand and getting more gravel out with my little mini vacuum cleaner, these things are handy. And then just using a little paints brush as a parts brush and toothbrushes, try to get as much as you can out of there. Makes cleaning a lot easier. So this is what we end up with. Now, at this point, you may or may not know that you can actually do the gear change without doing any of this stuff. The gears pull out very, very simply. Furnace is coming on again because we're in the middle of winter here in Canada. Might have mentioned that already, I'm not sure. So this can be done in the truck. All you got to do is take the skid plate off the bottom, and the bumper assembly is a lot easier. So you can just pull this cover off. And I usually have, this time of year, quite a bit of grease jammed in here, just because we run in the snow. So it helps keep the water out. But speed running, you don't want this much in there because it slows you down. So there, these gears obviously are easy to take apart, or take off and change. So that goes in there. Some of this grease, and then the pinion gear simply pulls out with a pair of pliers. So pretty easy to do that part of it. Just showing you that just in case you didn't know. And then you can change these bearings without getting this deep into it, but we're going to be doing a whole bearing change, so we're just going to put this back on here for simplicity's reasons. Then we can get into the heart of the beast. And you can see there's going to be a pile of cleaning that has to be done. All this dirt is gonna fall in to our cavity. We want to keep clean. Look at that crap in there, eh? Amazing. So, easy way, obviously, would be to just leave the screws in the holes. That way you know where everything goes. So this is called the Cush drive cover, because it's covering up the Cush drive assembly. You want to check in here to make sure it hasn't burnt or anything like that. I run a little bit of grease in on my gears here, again in the winter time. Helps keep it from rusting. And then at this point, I'm going to pull this back just a little bit because this cover isn't going to want to come up that easily. And there we are. You check inside of here and make sure the bearings haven't spun inside of the case here. Normally you'll be able to tell that because the bearing is already, it's rusty. We'll put that there. Put that there. Lots of rags is handy too. So here you can see the bearings that we need to get changed and the inner workings. The Cush isn't going to... Well, the joys of being an X-Maxx mechanic and not a video guy. My camera has glitched out, so we're doing a test of this one. See if we got some video action that we can get back to. I have to put it back together and reshoot that one. Okay. Back in a minute, I think. Alright. Had to pull out a backup camera. Had a malfunction. So, we're going to run down this again. We're going to hold off on taking the center brace out, and we'll run through this again. So, going to access the differentials now to get the bearings out. We'll get some paper towel down for all the pieces and parts that we need to clean and rebuild. The differentials are going to have to come apart and fluids and everything checked in them. Bearings, drive cup inspections, you can see where they've been wearing a bit. Needle moves. There we go. So then up in there, we only have 2 bearings. Right there and there. Those 2 in the front. And in here, you just want to make sure that it hasn't spun at all. Everything looks okay. More screws to add to our pile of growing screw pile. So now, once this is out, we can get the center drive out. If the drive shaft is in, you can't get the center drive out. Unless you split it into modules, which I tend not to do if I'm doing the bearings. The heart of the beast here. The Cush drive cover off here again. Again in here, want to check to make sure the bearings haven't spun. I run a little bit of grease in here because the winter time. Pull our Cush drive out in here. Going to want to check the bearings, the shape of the gears, and then we'll pull the Cush all apart. Make sure the rubber coupler and pin are in good shape and the shaft doesn't have any wear. And then here you're going to pull it back. Oh, the bearing's hanging up in the... drive shaft coupler needed to come out. Well, that's one way to get it out. All stuck inside of the upper bulkhead. So there's another 5 bearings there. There's our pinion, rear bearing, center diff that we want to rebuild. Check it out, clean it, put new fluids in it, make sure it's all good. Alright, so there is a pile of our screws, new chassis. Then we'll get at the 4 corners, bearings, and we got a lot of cleaning to do. That 1717 hanging on the WFO motor mount there, working awesome. The ESC sitting on the what's an RPM ESC relocator. It's a really nice setup. So I'll make some room here, and then we'll take out the center brace. Going for a trip onto the hat cam. I'll try not to move around too much. So the center brace, we're going to leave it so it comes out with the 4 battery tie downs as well. A couple of the screws out already. So I said I had a few, or maybe 4 of them out already, because I had the skid guards that are over there on it. These here plates, they go in here and they go and replace one of the each corners of the battery tie downs. So that's why there was a few out already. Now, before we start to pulling this out, which it is a bit of a pain because it's in there. That's why you should never get rid of your cross brace if you're going to bash the truck. It is a key component as far as I'm concerned. It holds this thing together. You get rid of this and put one of those aluminum ones in, it doesn't allow the chassis to do what the chassis has been designed to do. I'm getting full grease. There we go. So this may not look like the easy way, but trust me, it is. there you have it. Chassis brace. I've done some modifying on it to get my fan over here to lock in, and then before I had this ESC mount. I had a chassis supported ESC mount, but it kept sliding and bashing into the receiver box and the back of the motor, so we got rid of that. So that there is essentially it. Now there is one other bearing that is right here on the end of the servo horn. Now to get that out, there's two remaining bolts, one right in here and one on the other side. That'll disconnect the whole front module, and then you can get at that and the servo as well if you wanted to put a servo in it this time. And yeah, lots and lots of cleaning now. You can see how that motor had to be, it had to be die grinded out of there to get that long can to fit back there. And how that ESC sits in there, it's kind of nice. We're in the middle of fabricating and designing a box for in here for accessory switches and stuff like that. So that's about it. We'll get this all cleaned up, and then we'll resume the rebuild. Alright, little shot of the cleaning process, the not so glamorous part of RCing. I got the chassis pretty well put back together, so we'll be getting back at the bearing replacement. Little mineral solvents there to get the 20 million out of the center diff, but pick it off first. Just comes off. It comes off pretty easy, and it rolls around in your fingers. All right. So now at this point, you have your X-Maxx clean, bearings all sorted, your differentials rebuilt, bearings installed on those. What I do is reverse my drive cups from left to right, front to rear, so I can wear them evenly. You'll also have your steering assembly rebuilt, nice and loose. Got to move beautifully loose. You can't have any kind of friction in there at all, or it'll eat at your servo. These I didn't show because they're basically simple, same as a 10th scale or any other bell crank assemblies. So from this point, take our freshly filled with 20 million center diff, new bearings, drop it in, drop in the rear bearing. We can put in our pinion gear. And then here we can check for lash. This is where you have some people shimming their diffs. Now if your gears are wore out, these are a new set, so I'm not going to have to worry about shimming them, but I'll go through the process if you have to. Side to side, you want to check this way, pulling side to side, pushing side to side. Typically you don't shim here unless your case is wore out or you have bad bearings. What you want to do is shim in here. You want to check this plate right here, right there. See, there's barely anything. So if you were to shim it, we get our shims laser cut from our guy at RC Garage here in Canada. Laser cuts these thin shim stocks. So what you would do, take that shim and place it right on the back there. And that takes up any play that would be in there. And I can feel it, that doesn't need that, it's too tight. So, might have to put it in there on the next one. Not right now, it doesn't need it. So put that back in. Put this on. Oops, sorry about that. So from here, everything that you need to put in there is in there. This is the rear upper mount. I've done the dual tie bar mod that I've been trying out. Seems to be working on my other truck, so I put it in this one as well. Pop that on there. Oh. Every time you put something in, you want to make sure that all the rotating part is smooth. There we go. Like that. I'm going to pop that in there. Drop in our freshly rebuilt Cush drive. Cush drive cover. And just for now, I'm just going to put a screw into the rear and the two Cush drive covers so I don't have to show you me looking for a whole bunch of bolts. So I'm going to pull out my manual and get all the correct. How nice that turns now. That's perfect. So now, this little piece connects the center diff to the drive shaft. Don't want to forget that. I did it once. So, push this through. Right up and is in the drive. Oops. Bell crank fell out. That's okay, I was taking it out anyways. So now we're at the front end of her. Same kind of deal here. The small bearing goes in, the larger bearing goes in, and then the pinion goes in. And again, if you were to need to put any shims in it, you would check here for the play in the pinion gear. It's tight. So that's going to stay just like that. And again, here I got the dual tie bar mod. This is going to work out really, really good. Goes in and it's going to stop the, especially on the front, this upper tie bar or upper bulkhead breaks right here all the time. And it's a pain. You got to tear it down to this point to get at it. It's not fun. That goes on. That goes on. You can check for, look at that. Nice rotation. Again, Just going to put one screw in here so you don't have to. Again, rolling glass, look at that. That's nice. Look at that spin all the way through. That's what you want. So now, the reason I took the bell crank out is at this point you have to get underneath it to put these screws in. I didn't want to show you all that stuff. The chassis right now, in its 3 modules, the center, the rear, and the front, are only being held together, believe it or not, with 6 screws. 2 in the front here, and 4 in the back here. It's kind of a cool setup the way they have manufactured these trucks. Very, very impressed with the design. Okay, so I will be checking back in. I'm going to just grab my manual. I want to get these laminated, but go through here and it's got all the sizes of the bolts that need to go into every spot. Metric ruler, and if I have any questions, then I can poke it with my paper clip just to make sure I don't put too long a bolt or too short a bolt in anywhere. Just thought I'd show a little part of tightening these bolts. I like to spin the Cush while I'm doing it. Sometimes when you're using a new chassis, not so much with the old chassis, but if you're using a new chassis, you don't like to, they're sometimes a little tight. So I just want to tighten these all nice and slowly. The nice thing, I have this set on 11 as my torque, and then I go over them when I'm done by hand. No bind. It's nice. That's nice. Free spinning. It's just the way we want it. Alright, so the truck is together. Most of my screws are in it now. Well, as far as the screws that need to be in it for this point. Center brace can go in now. All 16 screws that hold it in. Integral, I think. It really helps support this flexibility of this chassis. A couple things I wanted to show. The Kevin Talbot hack is changing out the servo saver bolt from a 12mm to about a 16, and then putting a lock nut on the back of it, so it's not just threading into the plastic. It'll have a tendency to pop out. That's a good way to go. The earplugs. This is a piece of earplug. It'll get you out of a pinch, but I try to stay away from the pain in the butt to clean out. This is your basic Traxxas 20 million oil, and it's the same kind of consistency as an earplug, but when it's left to sit, it self-levels. Here's a new jug, or a new can. You can see it's in there like glass. So when you put it into your diffs, I let them sit overnight into my center diffs, not my front and back yet. I haven't done it. I might. And once you let it sit overnight, it finds its way and gets rid of all the air, and then you just got to top it up the next morning, and you're good to go. So at this point, I have test fired the truck, make sure everything's honky-dory and working the way it's supposed to. It's a good idea, because I did have 2 wires backwards out of 3. Go figure. So there is the 1717 Monster 8S 1650 build. Bearing replacement. Dual tie bar mod. Kevin Talbot hack on the inside. The ESC is held up with an RPM. ESC relocator. The motor is sitting on a beautiful WFO mini mount. I got a ProTech 30mm high output fan in here, and then I have a 40mm fan here as well that fits underneath the wires, just in case it's a little bit too warm. I could fire that one up too. So at this point, I'll put the rest of the truck together. I got a few more things I got to clean, and we'll close this video off with that, I guess. I got one more thing I forgot to add here while we're at this. In case you ever decide to do a bigger motor and such, and you need a bigger gear cover, they're hard to come by. I know there's some people that print them, but I just got a lid off of a paint can. I think it's off my miter bond, and then I just shaved out the hole for the back, and it just drops right in there. A little bit of time and patience, and she goes right in there just like thin. And the other thing I was going to mention is don't throw away your old 2085 servos. The metal gear kit for it, and you'll get more life out of this once you strip the gears out of it. I got one I've been running for 2 years, and it's been working just great.